All right, welcome everybody to another Monday Expert Interview. Today on Dave Cooper Live with special guest Greg Ugalde, immediate past chair of National Association of Home Builders, along with Greg Zick, the AVP of Workforce Development, National Association of Home Builders. We are going to be talking about builders and what's happening in our world from not only in this country with workforce development, but from a global aspects. Builders continue to face headwinds into 2022, supply chain issues, material cost increases, labor shortages, and permitting delays. How can we create the powerful partnerships to offset these hurdles? What's happening with PPP loans and lumber tariffs? Are you ready to hear more about NAHB activity around climate change? We'll explore NAHB representation at the recent Climate Change Summit. So, and along the way, we will be introducing the Home Builder's Guide to Off-Site Construction. It is going to be a jam-packed show. We have a lot to get through today. We're looking forward to bringing on Greg Ugalde, who is a regular on our show, and he will do the introductions with Mr. Greg Zick in just a moment. So, Greg Ugalde, welcome to the Dave Cooper Live show once again. How are you, my friend?
Good. How are you doing?
And I tell you what, it's Monday. I'm in Alabama. I had kids dancing on stage at a concert last night.
I heard there was big news at the concert last night. National TV.
Yeah, national TV. Yeah. The girls were up there dancing and having a good time with some heavy hitters in the industry. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. Family is important, but so is climate change, so is workforce development, so is partnerships, and all of the things that we have to cover today. And today you said, you know what, we're going to bring Greg Zick onto the show. Why don't you give us a little background of why we're bringing Greg onto the show, and then we're going to bring him in and we're going to go through some serious bullet points.
Sure thing. So when you mentioned it at the top of the show, workforce development is just so critical and something that everybody in our industry, whether you're the builder, supplier, whether you're one of the subcontractors, we need people in our workforce. And it all starts with getting the right people up front. And the guru at National Association of Home Builders for doing this workforce development effort is Greg Zick, and a terrific guy. And you'll see by talking to him, he's recently taken some big steps forward in creating additional relationships. One of the things that I enjoy most doing with Greg is that we do the awards ceremony at IBS, right? So we have a week of competitions with colleges and high schools. And at the end, we get a room packed with over 800 students that have competed. And it's just wonderful to see what's going on. And Greg spearheads that each year, and it just continues to blossom and get better. But let's bring Greg on. He's got a ton to talk about today, Dave.
Yeah, for sure. Mr. Greg Zick in the house. How are you, my friend?
Awesome. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. It's the pleasure is all mine. I promise you, Greg. You do so much with the NAHB. We had the pleasure to do some work together last year with the student chapter and some of the events you held. But before we get started, we ask people the same question, Greg. We kind of want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or Greg Ugalde will be calling your mother. Hopefully your mother's still with us. I should have asked you that for the show, but it's not a good place to be when we bring people's family on the show. They throw down all the dirt. But you only got 2 minutes to do it, so go for it.
So, hey, Greg Zick, Minnesota farm boy here. Been at NAHB for 15 years, and sort of now I'm in my dream job the last 2 years, working on workforce development and trying to help solve the labor shortage. So I'm going to just go ahead and jump right in. So it's a pleasure working with both Dave and Jen. We've had some wonderful programming for our students and our young professionals this last year. And Greg Ugalde, it's always a treat to work with him. I'll never forget when he was the state rep moderator and I was the staff liaison. So a long, wonderful relationship there as well. I want to talk about powerful partnerships as a way to deal with the workforce development shortage. I'm just coming back from a recent conference. It was the Career and Technical Education Association conference, and there were people from Department of Labor and Department of Ed, and we were talking a lot about partnerships. And some of the, so we have a declining population, we know, right? We have a lot of people retiring. Immigration laws have changed. So it's not just the construction industry, it's almost every industry is looking for talent and developing a pipeline. One other thing that they pointed out is 1.4 million women left the workforce over the last year and a half with COVID, and they have not come back. The other startling statistic is 17% of childcare centers have closed, and there's been no movement for them to come back. So that's why I want to talk about some positive things that you can do. NAHB has signed a partnership. We're taking our relationship with the Association for Career and Technical Educators to that next level. So we're excited that we'll be a sponsor for February Career and Technical Education Month. But let me talk just a little bit about the talent development strategy and that sort of a partnership between the employer organizations, and we're going to use the educational institutions kind of as our example today. The latest statistics from the National Center for Education Statistics, we have 12.3 million students studying career and technical education programs. So that's a lot, right? 98% of public schools reported that they, have students studying in these clusters. So we know they're in the backyards of our 700 local associations kind of across the country. And it was interesting. We got to see a lot of teachers at this conference in New Orleans and hear their side of the story and how to work with industry. And there was a lot of industry associations there. And what they learned is, after school each day, they could go out there, meet with a business partner, try to develop a business partner by business partner. But the quicker way to do it was to go to the industry association, where you have all these members and all these companies who are looking to get involved and be a partner in the classroom. So I thought that was interesting.
Greg, let me just, I want to, you threw out some big numbers that I think people really have to understand, because everybody's saying, where's our workforce right now? Mm-hmm. Everybody, whether you're in retail, building, just across the board. I mean, that's one, did you say 1.4 million?
1.4 million women had left the workforce and have not come back, according to the Department of Labor. Yeah.
Right. If you could share those stats with us again at the end of the show, we want to make sure we put that up there, because this is information I think people really helps them understand the situation we're in. Like, where is the workforce? Why? So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. You're gonna say, I see Greg Ugalde's mind's turning up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so interesting, because every time you look and remember, any time that we're talking, we have 350,000 job openings in our industry alone. And it fluctuates around that number. But the stats that Greg's talking about are showing you why that's such an uphill climb. And that's being generous, actually, when you're looking at our industry, because if you start carrying it out, like you said, David, to delivery systems, to stocking shelves at some of the that can grow fairly quickly. So what we need, just looking exactly at our industry, that's an incredible number to have to fill.
Yeah. So some of those positives are, we have some strategies in place to really work with our local Home Builders Association executive officers on those partnerships with those high schools. We also have some new resources we're about to release that really promote women in the construction industry and will help our members hopefully recruit. And next year, we're allocating even more resources and budget for that, and videos and flyers to come.
Is that part of the diversity program and other things that we put in? Because we need more diversity. Yeah. We need more women in our industry. And we talked about the diversity program on the show, and this is all stemming from that initial launch, I'm assuming. Yes.
Yeah. So we really celebrated this last year. So I've been around for 15 years at NAHB, and this was a big year. Bureau of Labor Statistics, women went from 10.4 to 10.9. To an outsider, that might not sound exciting, but everybody on the inside was excited that the needle had moved. But so we still have efforts to go. And you're exactly right. So it is a diversity, equity, inclusion initiative of NAHB. I think also in there it was 7 8% African American and 3% Asian. So there's room for growing our labor pools there.
I love it. I love it. Why don't we talk about some of these partnerships that you guys are forming and where they're headed?
Yeah. So, one that we're really excited about that's going to launch, we'll have a press release and some of the top players, the CEO will be there as well. The Boys and Girls Club of America. As you know, they've been around for, I believe 130 years. They have about 5,000 programs around the country. So NAHB over the last 6 months has been meeting with their executive team, their chief operating officer, and partnership people. The population of the students who are at these Boys and Girls Club are anywhere from K to 12th grade. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to introduce into the career exploration. One pathway could be a career in construction. We have some excellent examples around the country. We have some members who are really involved in volunteering their time at the Boys and Girls Club. And one huge success in Madison, Wisconsin is where that Home Builders Association has worked in conjunction, built an actual facility, and are really embedded in all of their activities. So what we'll do is we'll make our huge announcement in January. We're working on selecting our pilot of our first 10 cities, which we'll hook in our local home builders associations, and we'll connect all those dots too. So the National Housing Endowment gives out money for career connection grants. So those are going to be some career fairs. We're going to make sure we include those students at Boys and Girls Club. And the other thing is, that there is a very diverse population, the Boys and Girls Club. So it's a chance to help move the needle and increase, hopefully, our people of color.
So much work had to go on behind the scenes to come up with a program for these Boys and Girls Clubs to be able to educate and teach within their organization. So my hat's off to you on that. And I think, what a great way to reach in, especially because you find a lot of the Boys and Girls Clubs, you find them in inner cities and, the outskirts of the inner cities, not as much in the suburbs. It's such a great opportunity to teach somebody a skill and be able to go in there and say, listen, in 2 years, when you graduate, you can come out making $60,000 a year, wherever you live, right? That's a huge thing. And when you get into some of these programs in some of the cities, now you're talking real money that means something to them because they see the flash and glimmer of, the high-end shoes and all that stuff. And I love this. I think this is amazing.
And Dave, one of the biggest things that we see with programs like this, the students, the young people that are motivated to go to the girls and boys clubs like this, they're taking that first step to being active, so that it's a pathway that's much easier to address and keep them wanting more, because you're not showing up there because you're home watching TV. You're there to compete, to play sports, and so on. This is why we expect great results. Once Greg sinks his teeth into the first 10 pilots, this is going to hit the ground running, and we'll be ready to spread it throughout the country.
For sure. And the fact that the Boys and Girls Club even came to mind as the opportunity to put that out there, I think is brilliant. So well done. That's cool. That's an awesome way to bring out education to the younger generation.
One more thing I would like to mention is just, hearing the feedback from the teachers there about us as the employers and the industry associations. We're really concentrated. We want employment, right? We want we want them to come and work for us. We want to focus kind of on the final stages of hosting an apprentice or a pre-apprentice or internship. But they talk about sort of, it's a long relationship in the partnership. So you got to do all the low intensity, moderate intensity, and high intensity things. So just to kind of recap, that's where our Workforce Development Champion program comes into place. We have a list of about 25 things that we believe are the best practices coming from, the field. And so it's things like being a classroom speaker, having network events, roundtable discussions, serving on industry advisory councils and doing curriculum reviews, and sort of taking it then to the next level, job shadow, designing some student projects, worksite tours, teacher externships. So they talked about how all of that stuff's important, and it's just sort of continuous. and how employers and industry associations really need to make the time for those partnerships, because those are the ones who are then getting young, new, talented employees. So just wanted to bring that out.
Amazing. All right, everybody, listen, we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. So get your tweets on now. We need to be tweeted a little bit. And if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, well, shame on you. You should be subscribed to our YouTube channel. We are growing how we build. We are building it better. And if you miss any of these episodes, you can watch it when you watch it, whenever you want. So if you're not watching it live, well, welcome. We want you to watch it when it's not live as well. All right, Greg Ugalde and Greg Zick. We have a lot to cover here. Boys and Girls Club's only part of it. I think that's a powerful thing, and Dave Cooper Live will definitely want to cover some of those things as we're out and about. Let's keep moving forward, and let's talk about, that's a powerful partnership, right? We're going to get into what are the results, identifying and developing, and all of those things. So where do you want to start?
Let's see. So we can start at the identify and develop. All right. So that first step is identifying and developing. So, that's the partner outreach would be the first step. So one of the nice things on NAHB.org under our workforce development resource. So if we take, the systems we have in place already for career and technical high schools, that's there where you're able to drill down by state, by jurisdiction, and find, if you have those high schools in your backyard. With identify and develop, you're going to have some discovery meetings. You're checking out capacity and readiness on both sides, both, you as the employer or the industry association with the school. And you want to make sure you have multiple point people, because people do come and go, and you don't want to start a partnership and then lose track. That teacher might leave, that association staff member might leave. So identify and develop who's the best. What are the best solutions in your backyard for partnerships? We'll have this
cross training.
Yeah, we'll have that same sort of thing in place for NAHB with Boys and Girls Club. We have it in place with Lowe's and Generation T, and we have it with our career technical high schools. The next thing is just implementing and managing. So it's developing that strategic plan with your partner. You're co-designing and co-creating. So those teachers are looking for industry members to come in. We heard from the teachers across the country. They're managing a classroom of 35 people where maybe half of them English isn't their first language. They're managing classroom behavior where fights might be breaking out and all this. They love having industry people come in and help co-design, co-create, those lesson plans, those projects, introducing at the beginning of the week, and then they can test for it at the end of the week. Also creating budgets. So being realistic up front. Are you bringing money or not bringing money? You might be bringing your time and talent, which is awesome. Next is measure and improve. So you just, throughout the partnership, monitoring, assessing, evaluating, celebrating all the successes along the way, accountability and reporting for sustainability. So we'll have resources for all this in place at NAHB once we launch, and we'll come back and talk about the Boys and Girls Club. The next is sustain and scale. So expanding that depth and breadth. So a great example of that is just when we look at the Colorado Springs, that HBA started with 4 schools, and now they're in 30 schools. They started with 30 students. Now they have 800 students. So that same sort of thing will expand with depth and breadth. We'll start with 5 Boys and Girls Club, for instance, NAHB will. In January, we'll add 5 more in June. And then we'll hopefully have systems in place to go nationwide. And then it's succession planning and lessons learned. So that's just kind of the four categories of building that powerful partnership, and we'll have the resources in place for that.
Love it. I love it. And it just dawned on me, everybody, if you're out there and you're watching this and you want to get involved and you want to get your Boys and Girls Club or your local community involved, you guys should definitely reach out to your Boys and Girls Club. Tell them about what's going on at the National Association of Home Builders and these pilot, because I think you wouldn't be opposed to others reaching out, would you?
That's right. That's right.
We're better together.
It's so interesting when you focus on how important it is that we try to include not only the young people, that's critical, but the more members of ours, for example, in our federation that step up and say, look, we'll work with Greg, we'll work with the student chapters, bring people in for the summers, for school breaks if they're in college. But important is that they get that hands-on and they get that face-to-face training. It's critical. And I judged some competitions. I just went down to Tennessee, and it's incredible the difference when students are cultivated in a warm setting where they're encouraged, where there's people that truly believe in them. And that's what Greg's really working on, is trying to make those connections. That's what this boys club and girls club, a first step there. In as many places as we can do that, is really cultivating the people hands-on. The young people are just terrific, and they're so eager. And that's when it's the most successful. When they have those types of relationships, that's where their base lies. When they just start out and they have that comfort level and they grow from there.
That's right.
Absolutely. Relationships, I think it's everything. And I just wanted to mention one new resource that we've just released, and it's the Picnic Table Challenge. So in Florida, we have the Future Builders of America, which is a spin-off organization of the Florida State Association. They do incredible work. Their local associations, Florida, partner with high schools. I think they have 20 NAHB high school student chapters, and they really wanted some sort of a hands-on activity that they could do with their builder members, back home. And then how could they possibly maybe come to, the outdoor exhibit space and, show off these skills. So we just released that. That'll be a resource for any, members to use across the country, but they're going to have 4 or 6 different high school teams come, and we'll put the picnic table together. And so we'll have some judges. Hopefully maybe Greg Ugalde will be one of them, sort of chatting with the students, and it'll be about both the timed activity and then precision, what we're looking at. So you definitely hit the nail on the head, Mr. Ugalde, that it's all about the relationships, and they really want those hands-on activities with our members.
That is awesome, and I'm looking forward. I get to judge this year. I'm one of the judges at the International Builders Show.
Yes,
I mean, you guys really do a lot of competitions. One competition breeds technology and new ideas, but it also gives people the passion to jump in and try and make a change and build something better. So this is fun.
And David, at every level, right? Because it takes it through from planning to the actual construction and the completion. Every you've got to do all of that. It's really, when you see the pride that these teams take, it's really incredible. And I'll tell you this too, Greg, that young people have this diversity thing happening naturally. I mean, they don't need to discuss it. When they're looking for people to get a job done and they look to their left and their right, everybody's welcome under the tent. It's a wonderful thing to see.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, and YouTube's lighting up today. This is exciting, everybody. Our YouTube channel is growing. So if you're on the YouTube channel, I know some of you, let us know where you're joining from. This is exciting to have you on. You got 2 really big players that fight for our rights in the building world and the environmental world of building. And we're going to get into that in the second part of our show with Greg Ugalde. He came back from a big environmental meeting overseas, COP26. Is that right? Is it 20? It's 26.
26.
And we'll get into what all that means. But first, we gotta finish up with Greg Zick here on what's going on and how we're bringing more youth into our organization of the NAHB and the trades and just in the building environment overall. Greg is tasked, I think, with a monumental job to come up with innovative ways to do it. And so far, you are not letting us down. So let's keep going through this, Greg.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can surprise me anymore. The Boys and Girls Club. I mean, that one got me. I'm like, dang, that's awesome. So let's hear some more. Let's talk about the other things that are part of this.
Yeah. So we talked about, the transformational versus transactional. So focusing on all of those things, the low, moderate, high intensity. It's not just about getting, your employee. Some of the other organizations, we're still in the exploratory phase, but Skills USA, huge organization. They do everything well. I know that many of our members are judges at the state level, the national level, the local level. you've ever been to one of their national competitions, you're going to be wowed. But NHB is also in conversations with that executive director, and we're still working out the details. But for instance, there's 40,000 high school students who are carpentry student members of that organization, and they're very open to us having some sort of reciprocal sort of agreement, and so we're excited about that. So more to come there, but they really have honed in, I think, across the country and figured out this high school student membership thing. So we're excited about that. I just wanted to highlight a couple other resources that are on our workforce development resource page. We do have about 8 or 10 middle school lesson plans that are there for our industry members to use to go into the middle schools or to go into the Boys and Girls Club. So that's there, and we also do have some sample PowerPoint presentations that are. Can
you put it? Do you have a link to that you can share with us? I can put it up. I'd like to show people that. I think this is super important because we have a lot of people outside of our industry. So we got moms, dads working, that are out there that are looking for resources for their kids, and I think this would be a great resource for sure for them, and we can share that. So. Great. I'm just thinking about this. I mean, this is something that could, with the skills, with the Boys and Girls Club. I mean, this is a big impact move by the National Association of Home Builders. This isn't a small impact move. This is a way to get to the masses in a very short amount of time to educate and show people how cool our building world is.
Yeah. We are very excited. Yes.
Well, one of the things that Greg has such an uphill battle with is that there's a natural disconnect in the demographics of the young people that we need versus the young people that are actually there, that are available to be brought into our industry. And so what we end up trying to do is not like in Greg, you brought it up, the some of the organizations that we work with, Skills USA, for example, we're trying not to be competitive. That's the worst thing we all can do is they'll get that with athletics and everything else when people start recruiting. But for this, we should do it in a comfortable, natural way. And that's, I think a lot of people don't realize how sensitive all this is for you and for how we set up these relationships and collaborations. Right. And it ends up working very well, but it's also something we keep an eye on every day.
Yeah, very much so. And Greg, I just put up on the screen so everybody's looking at it. So this is where everybody will go for that information. And so basically, if they go to nhb.org, you could just type in workforce development as a search, and it'll bring you right here. Is that accurate?
And then you accept the cookies on the bottom.
Oh, don't be like me. There you go.
And then you can just scroll down, and you'll see that there's just all kinds of information on the bottom.
Oh, I see. Right. Careers in Construction Month, Technical Education Month, talking points, data, lesson plans. Look at that.
Yeah.
Middle school lessons.
Click on them. Yeah, it opens right up.
Yeah.
That is absolutely. I mean, that's awesome. That really is awesome. Well
Greg's
done.
team really did a great job. And, we don't have time today, obviously, but if each one of those you click on, you can spend and sift through. They put a ton of information on there.
Yeah, very, very much so. All right, perfect. Greg, is there? We got a few more bullet points that we did the resources. Do you have any more bullet points that you want to go over? Why don't we talk just a little bit about what you will be doing at the International Builders Show as well? And we want to plug that. That is coming up. We will be giving 5 free all access passes to this year's International Builder Show 2022 in February in Orlando. So if you're in the cold weather, you get to come to the warm weather, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to give it out to tradespeople. We're going to give it out to students. And we're going to have some general random drawings as well. So stay tuned. We're going to start putting out the dates on when those drawings are going to be. So it's your chance to win an all-access pass to the International Builders Show. Compliments of the National Association of Home Builders, Greg Ugalde, Greg Zick, and all the other members. So, all right, awesome. Tell us, Greg, what do you...
Dave, I hate to do this to you, but if you want, You probably saw this coming. Why don't you do one today? I
Ooh.
mean, if somebody wants to, you have a lot of people on, maybe pick the third person that you see and have Jen just monitor it. Whoever wants a ticket, send it in. Whoever's
Well,
third's going to
I
grab it.
yeah. So I got a better idea, Greg. I got a
Good.
better
Let's
just
hear it.
because I didn't set up the lottery. I got to have the lottery set up at the beginning of the show because it randomly
Okay.
picks. So we'll do the lottery. I knew you were going to do this. I should have been prepared. This is. I should have gone. I should have gone to the Boy Scouts. I would have been better prepared for no one. But let's. I think we could do that either Wednesday or a day next week where you hop
sure.
on and help us give one of these away. And that way we can get it out there. But
rather than crash the whole thing today. See,
yeah, well, you know what the thing is, we have a lot of people coming and going during the hour, and we want to make sure everybody has opportunity
That's right.
To win. All right, so let's keep moving on. Greg Ugalde throwing me zingers, but I like his zingers. That's what's fun about the live show. Greg Zick, where can we find you at the International Builder Show?
Yeah, so the International Builder Show, we're very excited. I think the place I would recommend people to start would be with the student competitions. That's February 7th through 9th. That's the Monday through Wednesday. We have more than 55 teams that will be there from across the country. It's always exciting to see all the different levels. There's high school students, high school teams, community colleges, associate degree programs, and then the four-year college programs. They've been working all semester. They're always waiting and excited. We released problem statement right after Labor Day. And so they come and they do a presentation and they field questions from our industry judges. So that's always exciting. So you want to make sure you take in that. Then there's the awards show where you get to see who wins, and a great networking event with all of those wonderful sponsors, that we have of our students. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to have that picnic table challenge. We're working with the Florida high schools. So that will be out in the outdoor area on that Wednesday, February 9th. So that will be exciting. We every time we come together, we always have a workforce development champion forum. So you'll hear from some exciting examples. We work closely with the Home Builders Institute, the National Housing Endowment. We all come together and show examples of what you can do. Whether you're a staff member, or a builder, or associate, we're all in it together. And then it's going to be exciting. You're going to have a chance to meet some of those Boys and Girl Club execs, the CEO, the COO. We'll have sort of a press release event. They're going to be at the Leadership Council meeting. So those announcements will come and we'll get to meet them. So we're very excited. We have lots of exciting things.
That's awesome. Well, that's awesome. And if they ever want to come on the Dave Cooper live show to kind of promote how they're helping the youth and where they're going, more than happy to have them join us one day to talk about what they're doing, and hopefully it helps them get some awareness as well, which is awesome. And if you're out there and you think this is a great idea, the Boys and Girls Club, hey, reach out to Greg Zick, follow him on LinkedIn and anywhere else, and post in the comments here. I think this is a great opportunity, and it's some really forward thinking. Greg, we appreciate all that you're doing here. Don't go anywhere. If you want to stick around to the end of the show, we'll bring you back in. We're halfway through, folks. We got to get into our bullet points. We are traveling the globe with Greg Ugalde here, and Greg's going to give us an update. So, Greg Zick, thanks for everything. Greg, why don't you kick us off and talk a little bit about where we're going and where you just came from?
Sure. So, David, I think it's a great idea that you had. In fact, I was getting off the plane from traveling over to Glasgow and the climate change summit. And Jen said, look, let's get a live, update on this because it's really that important. Let me explain what this even is, because people all know that there was a climate change summit, but it's all based on, and it's called COP26. Okay, so you hear the message that time for action is running out. That's probably a little exaggerated, but maybe not even, but it's so critical that everybody owns this problem and faces up to it. Now, COP26, it's actually the conference of the party. And what that is, it's back in 1994, there was a document, it was signed, it was the UNFCCC, And that stood for United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Bunch of people signed up, and that was the first one in 1994, the UNFCCC. So COP26 is the 26th, and I bring that up to show you that this has been ongoing. It's not something that's been ignored. It's just not something that's been treated with the relevancy probably that we should have been treating it with over the time period. So the 26th just happened in Scotland. So we go over 200 attendees, countries. I mean, it's crazy now that everybody's finally seeing how important this is. So we look at this and we say, what came from this, right? So let's go to the next one, Dave, and that's going to be who needs to cut and how much. All right, that's the biggest focus, right? Look at all these things that we're talking about: greenhouse gases, carbon footprint, right? All the things, all the buzzwords that you hear. For the first time now, though, that people are starting to own what this all means. So if you look at the most advanced 12% of the population, the United States, Canada, Europe, that 12%, but we contribute 50% of the problem, if you will, all that we do that we need to address. Okay, so what happened this year more than any other time was that it was a huge problem in a pandemic year when you think about it, because everybody's had their problem timeframes that were scattered out over the calendar. So to try and get together, masks were required. You had to show your vaccination data everywhere you went. All that worked out. But people started to say, look, these are real things. Let's move to the next one. And here's an example. Disaster aid. What was that even a topic for? Well, it was important because there's a number of countries that you might say can't defend themselves. For example, they don't have the resources, the technical ability to address some of these problems that other countries are responsible for. So for the first time, it was discussed a price tag on this. So 2021 had a lot of discussions like that. So the most prominent nations had to step up. You already had the discussions going on of the cost to the fix, right? That's important. And the also helping fix globally, not just in your own little footprint, but it's a much more massive job that needs to be done. There's a price tag on it. That's where the hard discussions
came in.
And there's very aggressive goals that many would like to have. You saw, and let's go to the next one. You saw that there was a lot going on with the international agreements. Main one probably that got the most focus was the United States and China. Long overdue.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. You're throwing stuff up in space. I mean, we have satellites that are going to be banging into each other and stuff. How about protecting our own planet? And that's what the point was here. You see there's a lot of talk. People say the right things. We're looking for teeth in the agreements and actual commitments to get it done. That's really what this year was about and why they're calling for another meeting next year. Let's get together, and now we have to start. Okay, let's commit. Let's sign on the dotted line, because in these agreements, you saw deforestation, which is the ability to leave our planet alone and keep resources in place like our forests that are helping clean up the air and so on. Let's commit to those type of things. Another one is the methane gases. Let's get aggressive on that. And then you also saw India. India stepped up to the plate. Now, they came short of committing but they're bringing it into their dialogue. And like, former Senator Kerry said, and former Secretary of State Kerry, they all recognize this is a good thing. Look, if you don't, you got to start somewhere. You're not going to correct this in a day. And, here's one of the issues, the different faces of climate action. So what's happening? Why isn't this like happening right away? Well, if you look, the people, and I have this a little bit at the National Association of Home Builders, and so many of our federations and organizations around the country, you see a demographic like, older white guys. You read that in the paper nonstop. Whereas the voices that you're hearing, a lot of them tend to be on the young side, and where you see a lot of in corporate America, and where the DEI efforts that we've talked about, right, that we've brought on Judy and Brad, and we've had people talk about that's going on all over the country. That is this white male establishment that still is making a lot of these decisions and commitments, versus the voice, which tends to be a lot younger and in many cases female. That was the one thing that I heard over and over too. That it was really a distinct disconnect, if you will, for what's gonna happen to actually being able to commit. And I think that we took some big steps for that.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me a little bit, Greg, about who's attending this, right? So you're there on behalf of the National Association of Home Builders. What kind of leaders from around the world are there talking about this? And who are the decision makers? So when you have these group conversations, one thing. How do we work towards that action? Like what was the actionable items that come out of it for countries to start doing together? And how does that, just give us an idea of that process? Most of us don't know the inner workings to this.
So as I said, it's already talking about next year. The topics that we're talking about, those are like we're saying, going to be continued. So when you look around, very well attended, people like Greta Thunberg, who's become very well known.
Yeah.
She wasn't invited to the tables. It's not set up that way. She was there. She was clearly a voice. But that's where some of this happened. When you looked around, Dave, and we could show some pictures if you want, when you look around, there was thousands of yellow vested officers that were there to keep the peace, to keep it organized for information purposes, but they were really security guards. That's how concerned they are. So this is a good example. Now, this one is directly related to our industry. Why I included that. That's Jerry Howard standing next to me. We stood up so that you could kind of get a framework. Nice. This is a panel of talking about young people in workforce development, as well as building systems, talked about often with this group. And awesome. They were meeting. Yes, this group met, and very effective, looking again to get some teeth over time. So you could see everybody's masked up, full crowds wherever you went. And go ahead, you can flip to the next one, and it's helpful to go through. So coming out of this, there's a number. Now, this fellow was an Ivy League professor, looking to take his message out there, to use as a building block. We've already set up some potential collaborations, some different things that we're going to be able to do to bring his efforts more mainstream for our guys that are looking for any way to step up to the plate and take their cuts. Everybody recognizes anybody that has young kids, anybody that has children at all, parents at all. I mean, this is a message that's shared. It's like, what are we going to do about it now? Red hot. That's what we're talking about. And this is just, it shows you, right? The green world map, that's just Jerry and I. And we were in the United Kingdom. So they had, it was just terrific. So that the hospitality was great. We had a chance to speak, to talk to people, to head around. I think that, go ahead to the next one.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to point out. To really get the flavor is to understand how serious that people take this around the world. And it's on DEFCON 1. It's like people, this is a protest right outside the meetings with security guards surrounding it. But
are those real people laying there?
Yes. And they switch up it's like changing of the guard, like at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, they switch the people that has supposedly passed away from the climate. I mean, they have strong voices and they mean to be heard. Go to the next one. This is an example now. I took this picture because you have to picture the two people with bullhorns out front. This line went for quite a distance. That bridge right there was the entryway to get over into the classrooms and to the meeting halls. And they stood there, didn't miss a beat with military type chants about how they just want action. And they had a number of different ways to do it. And this didn't stop. This was for the 14 days. It was quite a thing to see. And
who's in charge of like this protest, or it was peaceful, right?
Oh yes. See, that's why I said. See, you could see the yellow in the background, the yellow vests, totally peaceful. Because I think anybody that tried to be aggressive was really, especially when the president was there. You had all the leaders of the country. You asked who was there. One of the complaints that we heard loud and clear was, we're talking about carbon emissions. We're talking about cleaning up the environment, and 500 private jets showed up for this thing. So you had the right leaders there, but I'm not sure that Greta and her gangs thought that you were totally getting the message here. Like, could you have parked a little bit, maybe a country over and then, kind of walked or something, right? So, the messages are clear. It's certainly a challenge that we're going to face and get to. And it was wonderful to be there, I'm telling you. And you could tell by the fact that we sent myself and Jerry over, and the people working on this behind the scenes, and I thank them tremendously for pulling all this together. There were so many moving parts, but we need to be there. Our industry needs to be there.
Did you leave there feeling like there was real action looking to happen?
Yes.
That's
I
the
did.
important part.
I think that by the first step with anything, Dave, right, is ownership of it, is the recognition that the recognition has happened. For the first 25 meetings, there was recognition.
Right.
This to almost getting commitments out of people, I think you're going to start getting commitments. And I do not think that there's a comedy coming out. Actually, I saw some highlights of it. Meryl Streep. It's got Leonardo DiCaprio, but I think a meteor is coming toward the planet. It's comedy, but they're handling this climate change type message, and they're showing. And I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think, especially in Hollywood, and the people that are drinking, and sleeping this aren't going to give up. They're not going to let this go. And a lot of them are putting their money where their mouth is. And I think, yes, you are going to see. Now, if I'm not sure we can ever get out of, how we always talk in development in our industry about not knowing, not in my backyard type of issues and things like that. And this one is sort of, yes, you have to recognize your percentage and then some in the world, and to help everybody get through this.
For sure.
So we hope that everybody's starting to understand. The next couple, I think you're going to see some real tie-ins.
So just a quick question, then let's move on to the other topics here. Obviously, Henry's an impatient man. What's the mechanism that translates all the rhetoric into legislation?
Henry, that's you and I track a lot like on this stuff from whenever we speak. That is the part that I did not set my hopes high going in for this kind of fluffy type summit, if you will. But you saw it. You can tell that United States and China are going to roll up their sleeves. I think you're going to flounder around a bit. I mean, we can't, you look, for example, Build Back Better, the legislation that we're trying to get through. Critically important that this administration gets their after the transportation piece, bipartisan transportation piece got through, which we supported. This one has a lot of good housing aspects in it that we can support. However, as they start trimming it back, and we have to watch what it's going to mean for housing. Dave, this is in our next bullets anyway, so I'm jumping ahead. So this is this Build Back Better, Henry. That's a good example of how it's easier said than it is done, and we have to make sure to keep our feet to the pedal on this, and our foot to the pedal, because it's nations like the United States. And I saw something about Canada today that went zipping by, and I couldn't read it.
They have the same issues, they were saying, in
yes.
Canada, FYI.
Exactly. In fact, Miles, it's interesting because we are often, obviously, because we're in the same part of the world, but we're teamed up very closely with Canada on a lot of these discussions, as we should be. But so, Henry, to answer your question directly, it's meant that the next conference that they do start, really, if you're coming and you're going to get off your plane, have your pen ready, because we're going to start making commitments. And everybody's got to march it back and get it passed to with Congress and everything else. So there's probably going to be a little bit of a non-commitment, if you will. But I'm hoping that people get a lot of things lined up before they get on the planes next time.
Outstanding. Perfect. Thank you for that. All right. We got a few more topics to cover, and then we're gonna wrap it up, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about IBS at the very end one more time, and Omicron, if that's having any effect. But let's talk a little bit more about the headwinds and where we're heading.
Sure. So, when you look at the worldwide pandemic, or you just said an Omicron, supply chain issues, huge material cost increases, like you haven't seen, labor shortages and permitting delays. These are what we have lived with in 2021. You see stocks reacting terribly to the Omicron threats even. And all of these things are just not what we need to see. And so you have inflationary pressures. People are watching interest rates but the bottom line is our industry is still very optimistic. When we use our Wells Fargo tests every day that we send out the surveys and stuff, our outlook as an industry is all of this whole slew of problems.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's jump into some of the things that we've seen. The next one is the PPP forgiveness. And what happens with this is that there was some Small Business Administration, SBA, concerns that a lot of builders were building on spec. It was a concept that was used for something else that crossed over as a potential hurdle for PPP loans. Well, we started some litigation, and we have a tremendous litigation team at NAHB, and we got great results. So what we were able to do is just tell our members across the board that, as long as they paid salaries and they abided by the rules and, they paid the other office expenses to bring people back to work, exactly what the government asked us to do, your loans will be forgiven. A huge win in the court system for us.
Yeah, for sure. That is definitely a huge win in the court system. All right, let's talk about the CAIC contributions in aid of construction.
So this kayak, that's how you say it. It's
kayak.
Actually, and what this is, it was just a great example of how government functions like nothing else is allowed to. So there are certain companies around the country that are set up, and I'm not going to go into all the technical aspects, but for water and sewer costs of bringing those systems in, there's a provision in there that taxes are waived in certain circumstances. Well, if you fell outside of this waiver for these kayaks, it was a 40% additional cost. It was actually stalling projects and just making them unworkable.
Wow.
And it was odd because when we brought it up, we assumed that it was a mistake. That they, when you're pushing something through, it's late at night. It's pages and pages. No, this was actually, they had a number when we went to them that was calculated. That this was what we were going to save because of the money now that was going to come in with taxes. We say you can't do that. That's picking out an unintended beneficiary. Everybody else was getting a 40% discount. Certain people, just because they were doing the same thing everybody else was, it was just a different makeup of the entities that were in charge of water and sewer in certain jurisdictions. So we were able to fix that. Another huge win for our legal team. I figured today I'd bring up a couple of those because, you hear legislation a lot, but legally we also have to use that tool in our toolbox.
Well,
and
the
it
Gregs
comes
are on
in very handy.
Well, I was going to say the Gregs are on a roll this show.
Yes.
Greg, legally, Greg, and workforce development, Greg, you guys are beating it out of the park. We're gonna need to build a bigger park, I guess. All right, this is an exciting one for me right here. Home Builder's Guide to Offsite Construction. Now, I've had a lot of conversations on this throughout the last year. Internally, we know it's coming out. Hopefully you're going to tell me it's going to be rolled out through all the local associations and community associations. Tell me a little bit about this, Greg.
Yeah, this is actually a huge one, as you mentioned. So this is done. So our Building Systems Council, which we're all very active with, and NHE, National Housing Endowment. You heard Greg Zick mention that's our group that helps us financially and raises money. I'm actually on the board, and in conjunction with the University of Denver, over at the Burns School of Real Estate and Construction Management. We know those guys very well, always front and center. This book goes back to the origins of offsite construction, of what it all means. It answers questions for suppliers. And, just a little inside baseball, you get this if you're a Building Systems Council member. You get it for free. Another reason to join. This is an incredible resource, as you mentioned. A lot of time, energy, and thought went into this. We are now ready to say that it's going to be made available, and exactly what you said. The key is everybody's going to have it on their desk. So we're ready to take that to the streets. A lot of hard work, and we're super excited. Again, Dave Cooper Live is where you hear it first.
Well, you're hired. You're hired, Greg. That's right. Listen. This is a big deal because we need more resources for people out there that want to learn more about offsite construction, modern methods of construction, manufactured housing, whatever you want to call it. There needs to be a resource to do it. And the fact that the National Association of Home Builders is putting their resources behind it and their money and their power to put it out there to all of the members and hope the non-members that we would like to be members of the NAHB is an amazing tool to have. And I think it's going to be a great resource for everybody. All right, last topic:
Good.
lumber tariffs.
Here we go. And unfortunately, we
Come
will
on, Greg,
leave
give me
on
good news.
It's a little bit of a Debbie Downer here for sure.
We can't end on a Debbie Downer.
I think we have to see what we did today was we got everybody like just with the back slapping the whole deal.
Yeah, yeah.
No, in all seriousness, this is one that we've mentioned before, right? That we have to be very careful about, because the Commerce Department, we've met with Secretary Raimondo, former governor of Rhode Island. We work with her with workforce development. She understands what the issue is here.
Yeah.
It's a bad time for any lumber tariffs to kick in. And this one is going from 9% to 17%.
Come on.
Yeah, at the worst time. Dave Cooper, we have so many issues, so many headwinds that we need this like we need a hole in the head. 30% of our lumber comes from Canada. Good news, as we sit here, we've already started talking to Canada. And at NAHB, we're taking the fight directly. We're pulling it in our tent. And we're going to say, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to talk this through. Because what happened was the administration, this algorithm that kicks in that's saying that, okay, using these calculators, it does not take into real life what we're going through pandemic-wise,
right.
All the different issues we have. There's just certain indicators that are showing that this is what's supposed to happen. It doesn't work that way. Too critical that we're working with our Canadian partners for a long-term solution to our lumber dispute. And people now are co-owners on each side of the border, but we have a lot of good happening. So in effect, this is a way to just say we need to take action. We need to let the administration know. We have a bunch of calls to action. This is going to be key voted in our federation, but we need to step up on this, because it's just not something. This is along with interest rates increasing too rapidly, for example. Just we can't have it happening. So I think you see that there's a lot of great things that we're managed to work with all the things that it really is incredible. That's part of what you're doing every show, is bringing up these hurdles that we have and how we're going to address them. But in the end, I think that we keep working together. There's a lot of good messages out there as well.
For sure there is. All right, let's bring Greg Zick back in. Greg. All right, my friend. All right, Greg Zick, you were not a Debbie Downer and any of your talking points, so I'm giving you the non-Debbie Downer award of the Dave Cooper Live show today. So I love it. So listen, we have covered everything from workforce development, the Boys and Girls Club of America, new training programs for our youth from kindergarten through high school that can happen through the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, and other partners. Skills is somebody you're working with, right? So that in by itself is something that we really need in our industry. So Greg, that was an amazing topic of conversation. And Greg, the fact that you're representing us on the world stage is a very positive thing. Obviously you care so much about this industry. You come on our show and you talk about where Offsite fits in and what we've been doing with technology and how do we grow, the message out there. So we have more people that join us, and this isn't ever an NAHB sales pitch. This is real world stuff that's happening, and it takes all of us together to make solutions come together and drive our industry, and it's good for all of us. So outside of raising tariffs, that's not you, so we won't hold it against you. But you know what? These are real issues that we need to talk about, and if we don't talk about it, people will just keep raising them. If we don't fight for our rights, people will just keep taking advantage of us, and then before you know it, we'll all be in the soup line, and we don't want that. So we appreciate the hard fight for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Go ahead.
Dave, it's interesting because I'm follow you and the people that come on, and we're all sort of cut from the same cloth here, where it's up to us. We're starting to realize that what's Henry saying? Doubling.
Loving the
Yeah, yeah, right?
juxtaposition between
Yeah.
COP 26
It's-
and doubling the tax on the world's most sustainable product.
Henry, it's mind-boggling it's amazing to me too that there are a fair number of people that'll sit on the sidelines on all of these types of things. The time's over for that. Everybody's got to step up. I mean, there's serious issues for serious people. Wasn't that in the American President movie, right?
Right, right.
It's funny because you see movies like that, you get more quotes that are applicable than you do in real life because it's like that people can just create them. But we got a lot of work to do. There's no question, and this show really helps.
I appreciate it. Well, listen, Greg Zick, thank you so much for joining us again today and all the hard work you guys are doing out there. Greg Ugalde, always a pleasure having you on. We're going to start putting out the announcements and posts, not only through us, but also through the National Association of Home Builders on how you can win your ticket to the International Builders Show 2022 in Orlando, Florida. That equals warm weather for those of us that are north of the Mason-Dixon line, so to speak. So we hope that you keep an eye out for that and those announcements. We're going to start giving those away. And for everybody else, we will see you this Wednesday at 1 o'clock for our product spotlight. Have a awesome afternoon. It's a great start to a Monday. Greg and Greg, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, and Mark, here's your one thumbs up, and here comes the other one. Whoa, you
double thumbs up for the Willie. All right. We'll see you two. Bye now.
Bye now.